After coaching thousands of runners and taking my own 5K time from 25 minutes to under 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix your running form instantly and avoid doing the same mistakes I made that make you slower and, even worse, get injured. But before I show you how to fix your running form immediately, we first have to figure out what you even need to fix. Back when I was studying physiotherapy, I had this biomechanics professor that was insanely good at analyzing running form. Like, he was one of the best in the country. So I did everything I could to learn from him. I took extra classes, spent hours in the lab, and even worked for him for free just to figure out how he did it. And what I saw was crazy. People would walk into his lab, maybe even in pain, and then they would walk out running smoother, faster, and completely without pain. Slowly but surely, I started to learn exactly what he was doing, and I started to see the same results with my own clients. And the first step to fixing your running form is to figure out exactly what it looks like right now. So here's how to do it. First, you find a treadmill or a flat spot outside. Then you film yourself from the front, from the back, and from the side. And third, you make sure you use slow motion. Use at least 60 frames per second, but 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second are even better. Most phones let you change the frames per second straight in the camera app. Just switch to slow motion mode and boom, you're good to go. Before we get to correcting your running form and basically gaining free speed, once you have your footage, you first have to figure out what you need to fix. I'm about to show you the fastest way to correct your running form without needing a coach or expensive equipment. But first, you need to do this one thing. Pull out your footage and take a look at how you're actually running. For most people, this is a complete shock because how we look running are not always aligned with how we picture ourselves running. Actually, I think it's never the way we think we run. You can take a look at how you run straight from your phone or from your camera, but you can also download an app that lets you measure angles if you want to get extra nerdy. But before we start analyzing your running form, we first have to figure out what a good running form even is to begin with. So here's my way of defining it. A good running form reduces any wasted energy and maximizes forward motion. Any energy that is not used to make you go forward is wasted energy. Simple. So now it's time to figure out where your energy is getting wasted. So when you're looking at your footage, ask yourself the following. Do I look smooth or stiff? Do I bounce up and down too much? Or side to side? Are my feet landing too far in front of me? What part of what you're doing does not make you go forward but still uses energy? A common mistake is overstriding, meaning that your feet are landing out in front of your center of mass. When that is happening, you are creating a force against you that you have to overcome before you can start using your energy to propel you forward. I'm gonna show you how to fix it instantly in a moment, but first let me show you 8 other common mistakes that I see. Bad posture, slouching or leaning too far back wastes energy and limits efficient movement. Heel strikes. Landing hard on your heels slows you down and increases impact on your joints. A forward bend at the hip. Leaning from the hips instead of the ankles puts strain on your lower back. Lifting your toe mid-air. Wasting energy by dorsiflexing your feet instead of keeping a relaxed ankle. Movement from side to side. So excessive lateral movement reduces your forward momentum and efficiency. Too much movement up and down. Bouncing too much wastes energy that should be driving you forward. Landing across the midline. Overcrossing your legs can cause imbalance and increase your injury risk, especially on the outside of the knee. Too few steps per minute. A slow cadence usually leads to overstriding and higher impact per step. If you see yourself doing any of these, then don't worry. We're about to fix them fast. Once you've identified your biggest problem, it's time to pick the low-hanging fruit. Let me show you how to fix your running form with instant corrections, and then I'm going to show you how to avoid falling back into your old ways like most runners do and actually make the changes stick. So, what do I mean by instant corrections? Here's the secret. You can fix your running form instantly with the right mental cue. Let me give you an example. you find out that you have an overstride, meaning that you land out in front of your body. Then you get back up on the treadmill and you start running. Now you want to see what you can do to make those feet land closer to the center of mass. To do this, you can try different strategies. First, you can start with a higher cadence. So first you turn on your phone and then you find a metronome and set it to 180 beats per minute and you just try to run to the beat. If that doesn't work, you can try to have a mental frame of your feet landing behind you. Really try to get that mental picture of your feet just landing way behind your center of mass. Next, you can try to envision that you stepped in dog shit. And now you're trying to wipe it off your feet by wiping it off in the grass. This verbal cue, even though it's a bit strange, I've seen help so many runners over the years. It's also a great way to activate your glutes, and you might find that if you think this way, you're going to start to run faster. The last cue I've seen work really well is to picture you're falling from the ankles. The cue itself is not as important as finding a cue that works for you. Try one, and then film yourself again and see if it worked. If not, then try another cue and keep going like that until you find one that makes your running form better. You need to know how to make it stick, which I'll show you in a second, but now you have a simple strategy that you can use without cameras, without treadmills, whenever you're out running, and when you think about that simple mental cue, your form will correct itself automatically. But here's the catch. Running in a new way is a lot harder if you don't do it the correct way. And I get a ton of comments from people who say that they try to up their cadence and it gets so much harder to run. But I'm going to show you how to fix that in a second. But first, let me show you how to make this new running form stick so you don't go back to your old ways like most people. Let me tell you a story about the biggest mistake I see. Last year, I was coaching a guy who wanted to run a sub 90-minute half marathon. Like with all my clients, we did a running form assessment and we found that he was forward bending at the hip. So we found a cue that fixed it. He should have a mental frame of squeezing a coin between his buttocks. It worked like a charm for like a minute. And then his form just collapsed again. So why did this happen? It was because he was not strong enough to hold that form. This is one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they change their running form. They don't strengthen the muscles that actually hold them in place. And I used to be one of them. But when I fixed that, everything changed. So here's what you need to do. First, figure out what muscles control your weak spots. For example, if you got a lot of side-to-side movement, it could be your hip abductors. Second, do exercises that strengthen these muscles. For example, it could be one-legged glute bridges for hip stability. Third, you need to train them consistently for at least 6 weeks. Once you do this, your form will stay solid without even thinking about it. But it's still going to be harder and you're probably going to have a higher heart rate and a lower pace in the beginning. So let me show you how to avoid that. A few weeks ago, a subscriber messaged me saying, I tried to increase my steps per minute, but it made running so much harder. And yeah, that's normal. I hear stories like this all the time. And they are correct. Even though they are running more biomechanically efficient and they should be running faster, they are not. Here's why. Whenever you change your running form, your brain has to activate your muscles in a new and different way. And because your brain is the biggest energy burner in your body, then all of a sudden, running becomes so much harder. And since you're using different muscles, your injury risk also becomes higher. That's why you have to change your running form gradually, just like strength training. So here's how to do it safely. Week 1, you run with your new form for 5 minutes per run. The rest of the time, you run normally. Week 2, you increase to 10 minutes per run. And week 3, you increase to 15 minutes per run. You get the idea. You keep running until your entire run in this new form feels natural. And whatever you do, do not change your running form right before a race. You need at least 12 to 16 weeks for your body to fully adjust. And fixing your running form is only one piece of the puzzle. If you train like most runners, you'll probably still get injured and waste months of progress. So to make sure you get the most out of every step, check out this video next, where I'll show you exactly how to plan your training for maximum results.